What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is, and welcome back to yet another video with your man, Immersionholic. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Divide Et Impera update video. That's right, Divide Et Impera, Divide Et Impera, however you wish to pronounce it, is still being overhauled as we close out 2024 and really move on into 2025. It's incredible. This mod has been out for so long now, and we are still getting updates adding in amazing content. So what I thought I would do today is do a bit of an overview of the update itself. Now, you can use the timestamps in the description below to know where to go if you're looking for something specific in the update, but what I'm going to go through is, of course, the major changes, and I'm actually going to check them out with you. I'm not just going to sit here and talk about them. I'm going to actually show you and give you my also initial thoughts and reactions, as some of these I've intentionally tried to avoid seeing, so I can just sort of talk to you all, give you my impression, as well as do an overview at the same time. So this is a bit of a different style update video. After we look at some of the major changes, we'll also go over some battle changes that have been discussed and thrown in the update, any miscellaneous changes, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts on the update, feature DEI, and I'll do a small little section for a channel update just to address some things that have been brought to my attention over the last several months as I haven't been around. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into checking out the new Divide Et Impera update, the 1.3.4 update. Let's do it. So one of the biggest things about this update is the new rosters and unit cards that have been flooded into the mod. Specifically, Nabatea, the Dacians or the Getae, the Kartli and the Scordisci have some major updates to their rosters. So let's just take a very quick look at the unit cards themselves, and then we're actually going to jump into a battle and we're going to check out how all of their new units look live. So the Nabateans, first off, is where we could see their brand new unit cards, and immediately off the bat, if you've ever played as the Nabateans, you will know immediately pretty much everything here has been completely overhauled. I believe literally all of them have, except maybe this bodyguard unit, but even then that looks a little bit more crisp than before. But like, look at this, late Nabatean infantry giving off some Roman-ish vibes. We have the heavy infantry here as well. Oh, the caravan guard, as well as another unit that was added in a previous update. But just looking straight at the Nabateans, not only do we see some beautiful visuals of these unit cards, massive shout out to the devs for this, but in particular, their roster is very unique. The Nabateans, and in general, a lot of the quote-unquote minor factions have always suffered from not having really unique rosters. But now with this major update, the Nabateans now have a lot more flavor, a lot more uniqueness to them in particular. I expect to go over this fully in a faction overview in the near future, so yes, those will be coming, keep an eye out for those. But just like straight off the bat with the Nabateans, you can see they have a really big influence on camels in particular. A lot of skirmisher sort of sides to their sort of military. They do have some swords, but it's fairly limited. So they're going to be relying more so on utilizing their cavalry to do some hit and run style raids against the Egyptians, perhaps, who knows. But compared to like the Saba, who only have like 2 camel units, it's very, very interesting to see. Even though they're quite close to each other geographically and geopolitically, culturally, they're still quite different. So again, massive shout out to the devs for that major sort of distinction between these factions, which vanilla Rome and, you know, in general, quite a few other mods don't really grasp that sort of level of detail. Anyway, this is just a brief look at the Nabatean unit cards. You can pause and take a little bit longer of a look if you like. I in particular am really interested to see how these heavy infantry look. Oh, you know, I'm a sucker for heavy infantry. You will notice by my Roman content on the channel. Anyway, the Getae also had a major overhaul of the units and unit cards as well. So we'll be checking out both, but just to have a brief look at these unit cards. Look at that unit. Ooh, looks like he might have like stolen a Roman Imperial helmet or something. I imagine this unit comes after the major reforms of the Getae, which involves fighting the Romans 10 times. So that's going to be interesting. Again, this will be another faction that will be getting another faction overview in the near future. So right now I'm just giving you all my initial sort of impression and thoughts on this. Look at those archers. Oh my goodness. Don't they look incredible? We have a late Getic archer. Okay. fantastic, man. Oh my goodness. I just want to play like campaigns in all of these, just looking at these unit cards here. Oh wow, look at that general unit right there. It's almost like a golden style or bronze armor with the sort of yellow, oh man, I forget the name of that, but yellow sort of crest on the helm there. Not crest. You know, feather thing on his helmet there. I'm sure someone could give me the technical name in the comments. But it looks so much more professional and very more detail orientated. Like, look at that shield right there for that, I was going to say sword unit, but that's not a sword. That's looking like a fox or something. Anyway, that's a brief look at the Getae unit cards. Let's check out the Kartli. Just, this dude's wielding 2 daggers, so already I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to see on the battlefield? That's incredible. Very, very colorful sort of roster as well. I mean, we're getting into the east with the Kartli, so it's really just sort of on the edge of the crossroads, really. Going from Asia Minor to the Far East to Europe and whatnot. So this is where you would expect a lot more sort of colors to be shown in the culture and the units and whatnot, and we're seeing it here. Just absolutely gorgeous stuff. And it's funny because the Kartli is probably like the most underplayed faction ever in Rome 2 or DEI, but now the Kartli finally have love thrown their way. They have new units for them, and they have their entire roster has been overhauled. So it's not just that they have new units or new unit cards, but there's changes in statistics, there's changes in how the faction's going to function. So it's pretty awesome. Again, another faction we will definitely be checking out in a faction overview. I feel like we'll be doing pretty much everything. Last little cheeky look at the Scordisci. Straight away, given very, very heavy Celtic vibes here. I mean, like, look at this dude. He's just charged along with, I'm not sure what you would call that little green fabric going around him. It's not really like, I don't know, it's not a shirt. Maybe a robe of some sort there. I'm sure there's, again, a proper name for it, but it's just like, wow, that dude looks badass. He's the Scordisci heroic swordsman. He has a melee attack of 15, so rightfully so, he looks badass. He has insane stats. Excellent. Oh my goodness. And the Scordisci, again, is another faction which is just very renowned for not being renowned. Like, they're very rarely played. If I imagine if you look up on YouTube Let's Plays for this faction, they will be very few and far between. Which, you know, is a bit of a shame, but there is always going to be outlier factions. There's always going to be some that have more popularity, but now, with just the new unit cards alone, even though this is a very limited roster, I'm like, man, why wouldn't I at least do like a short campaign or a mid-level campaign with a faction like this? Not only because you have a really cool looking roster to just enjoy, but you also have the AOR units and whatnot that you'll be interacting with, and you'll be interacting with other factions that have their cool unit cards. For example, the Scordisci and Getae will be fighting each other directly very, very quick in a campaign typically. So that's an excellent sort of example of how you can enjoy all this new detail, even in factions that you probably haven't considered before. Anyway, that's enough time wasted. Let's go ahead and jump into a battle and check out some of these units visually up close. Alright everyone, here we are on the battlefield. Now as you can see, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video compared to my usual updates, but I do want to give you all some taste, as it were, into these new units that you're going to be seeing, or at least the new visuals of many of these units, although some of these units are brand new to some of the factions we were just checking out. And right here is our late Nabatean infantry. These guys are one with the incredible unit card down here that I was just talking about, with that Hellenic and Roman influence literally noted in the description. These infantrymen are apparently equipped with axes, javelins, and heavy armor. So not only do they have excellent heavy armor at 35, which is quite solid for an Arab-based faction, but they have an insane weapon damage of a total of 35. Attack of 11, defense of 12. These guys are basically kind of like Roman legionaries, except they actually have armor-piercing damage, whereas most legionaries do not. So it's excellent. I mean, you know, definitely that Hellenic and Roman mixture, which is so unique and very, very different, but still, you know, very distinctly Nabatean in their culture, ethnicity, and so on. Just a beautiful unit to look at. We have a lot of units here to check out. We're not going to check out all of them just to save time, and again, I'm just going to sort of skirt over some of these very briefly, but I just want to give you all a little bit of a taste as to what you can see. So this is some of the new units in the Nabatean roster. I say new units, again, some of that just means that some of these are just new visuals. But like, look at this, oh my gosh. Incredible, man. Does he have hair in his nose? A little bit, kind of. Okay. I thought that might have been like a bull ring for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, what a psychopath. That dude's crazy. Love it. That would be terrifying to go up against back in those days, I imagine. Oh my gosh, which unit is this? The heavy Nabatean Lancer unit. So they actually have shock cav. That's really, really, really sick. And I mean, if you didn't know any better, you could maybe even guess that this is like an Egyptian cavalry unit, one of their shock cav units. So definitely getting that influence from their neighbors, but you know, makes sense. And then we have the heavy camel riders here as well. They are a skirmisher unit, and they have 120 men in their unit here, which is always nice to see as a bonus. Nabateans don't have it for every unit, but for most of their camels they do. Just looking incredible. Anyway, we got to move on. We got to check out some of these other units very briefly. Again, I will do faction overviews on all of these units, but I just want to have a bit of a live reaction and review with all of you. Here is our Scordisci Chads. You know, okay. Here's your little green sash. I mean, you're kind of covering the one area body you don't need to, mate. But you know what? You just do your thing. You look terrifying, you know? I mean, even if I was completely covered in armor, I would look at it and be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Not much. That's just insane. And the DI devs have done such a good job with the units. Like, yes, there is probably a limited amount of like preset faces you can use, right? But all of these guys still look unique. They have different heights, different sizes, different facial hair, different colors of hair, different sort of like differences in the body, skin textures, and so on. Like, these are all unique men as far as I can see. Now, if you took your time to really look at them, you could probably tell there's definitely quite a few units that are like, you know, quite similar to each other. But look at this little dude. Like, he's not a Chad like the rest of them. You know, this is probably like the chief who's just busy, you know, eating a little bit more than the rest of them. Hey, good on you, man. Absolutely, why not? Get involved. But either way, it's just incredible. I just really can't get over how good these units look. What the heck is this? Okay, alright. Kartli Bodyguard Cavalry. So we're checking out the general's unit of the Kartli. Look, first off, what is this coat? This little fur collar right here. That looks incredible, man. How well textured is that? Oh my gosh. I've never seen that fur coat before. What the hell? Is that like... There has to be some sort of plant texture put together in such a really good way or something. Oh, man. A Kartli campaign coming up? I never thought I would see the day where I was like, yeah, I want to play as a Kartli. I mean, they're a very unique faction, culturally speaking, as is every faction, really. But it's never been a part of the sort of ancient world that I've had a great amount of interest in. It's interesting. I'll listen to it all day, but... You know, when I think of like, ooh, what do I want to dedicate my time to? I think of factions I really, really love. Rome, the Greeks, Egypt, Parthia, and the Eastern Empires. They really stand out to me. The Kartli has never been a faction that I've been like, yeah, I really want to play as them. But now, just with these changes, like visually, like, how epic would it be to see like a noble like him lead the kingdom? Let's try to have a look at some of the other ones. So the Scordisci and Kartli have mixed their units. The Getae are at the front over here, so these are my allies, as you can see at the beginning of the battle. Very quick look at the Getae before we move on to talk about the rest of the update. And again, I kind of hope you all don't mind this different style of recording. It's going to be a little bit different. I'll talk about this at the update part of the video later, but going to be recording things a little bit differently on the channel. Royal Getae Cavalry right here. Okay. Looking like a very much melee focused cav unit. Yep, melee attack of 13, defensive 8, 100% melee focus. That's excellent though. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. Shock cav is awesome. 100% melee focus. That's excellent though. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, to be honest. I want to see more melee cav, and looks great, but it's very dramatic, and it's really kind of like, it's overused. I would love to see like more grindy cavalry fights rather than just do an epic charge, kill half a unit. So it's excellent to see more melee cav being included in these updates, not just the, you know, the epic shock cavalry, which we can see here looks pretty awesome. Anything else from the Getae? Heavy Getic assault infantry, so we're going to see swords, axes. What the heck is that? Like, whoa. Is that supposed to... What is that? Is that supposed to be a dragon sort of thing? I don't even know, man, but... Like, dude, that looks like... Is that a pig's head? I'm not sure exactly what that is. It looks terrifying. And it looks like it would be a badass, like, standard to stand behind. Oh my goodness. Like, look at these swords, man. Like, they still have the little fox here, but then they have, like, a gladius right here. But then they got this big fella. I have no idea what that is. It's giving pirate vibes, but, you know, it's very much like rough and tumble sort of sword collection. And that's exactly how it would be. These are not cultures known to be, like, universally utilizing the exact same equipment made in the exact same way. Most factions and, you know, cultures, armies, and whatnot throughout the ages have not been perfectly uniform, like stormtroopers, like we see in Star Wars. And even though we love to see it in movies and whatnot, it's just not the reality. And you all know, shockingly I know, but you all know that I'm a fan of immersion. So this is getting my immersion meter pumping. Look at these units too. They have like a slight Celtic, a slight Greek influence, but as well as the Romans. So you have like that Roman style chainmail, but then the shields here, they're kind of giving like Roman Greek Thurios spear vibes, in addition to using these longer spears. But you know, Greeks also utilize Celtic things as well. So the actual pure origins, who knows where it came from, but it should all be quite similar. Look at that helmet. Dude, give us a side look. Oh my gosh, look at that helmet. That helmet is bigger than my future, man. I don't know how he's wearing it, but he's just a legend. Absolutely beautiful stuff here. But anyway, that's where we're going to wrap up our small little look at the units that have been majorly updated in the 1.3.4 update for DEI. We do have a little bit more to talk about though, so I'm going to just very briefly touch on the battle changes that have been discussed by the devs and included in their changelog update. There's also a few other miscellaneous things that I want to touch on, and then give some final thoughts and so on. So as I said, please use the timestamps down below to navigate as you wish. But besides that, let's just talk about the battle stuff and any other relevant changes. I'll also be linking a direct link to the changelog list for the update if you just want to have a read yourself. But I'm going to read it out for you essentially and cover most of the changes. So first off, with the battle changes, one of the most significant things about it, in my opinion, is the added longer knockdown time. So when a unit is knocked down from a charge, particularly from cavalry or elephants, they're going to be down for a little bit longer. So that's going to be really interesting because it makes them more vulnerable, and it means that it's going to have your charges have a little bit more impact. There is a lot of smaller adjustments that have been mentioned, which we don't really know exactly how that will impact things. For example, small increases to anti-cavalry bonuses for non-armor piercing units, so it's going to help them out a little bit against cavalry, even though they don't have that armor piercing. One of the other interesting things about battle changes is that improved maximum spotting range distances has been adjusted, or it's been improved on, as I said. So honestly, I would really like to see how that plays out in more hilly battlefields, as I feel like the line of sight spotting was very kind of wonky, and hopefully this makes it a lot more immersive and makes more sense is what we're really looking for. So hopefully we'll see that there. I'll have to do a little bit more testing and report back to all of you on that. So there's two more things about battle changes I feel like are worth noting. First off, elephant and chariot charges have actually had an increase to the distance and speed for them. So these elephants and chariots, along with that longer knockdown timer, might be a little bit more stronger than what they were before. Again, testing will determine this as we go forward. But then another thing is that there has been some lesser melee skirmishers have received new missile weapon entries. That is to say, entries into the data. So it's going to be slightly worse than what it used to be, but this is apparently to better balance their increased unit size and more ammo. So overall, the battle changes seem to be relatively minor. There will be some differences in the charging in particular, the line of sight. There is going to be some morale adjustments, but I don't think it'll be anything super significant that will like alter the meta for online play or anything like that. I think we've seen more bigger changes about the battles in previous updates, which I'll talk on in the future. But for now, 1.3.4 battles shouldn't really feel too different for you. The main thing that I would expect for you to notice as yourself playing is those differences in knockdown timers. But I'd be really curious to see if any of you have experienced any unique changes from those battles, or if you encountered something that caught you off guard. If so, comment down below, share the information. But anyway, moving on to the next sort of area of the update. So to get a little bit more specific with the updated unit cards, we do have the factions I described. We got the Getae, we got the Nabateans, we also have the Scordisci, and we also have the Kartli. Right, they're the big focuses, because they've also had their units adjusted. Visual overhauls, unit stats changes for some of them, and so on. But there also has been basically a massive implementation of brand new unit cards. So according to the DI changelog, this includes for factions such as the Celts, Iberians, Germans, the Iceni, the Diadochi, Massalians, Pergamon, Nabatea, Saba, Kartli, Getae, and the Morians, which is really interesting because the Morians have been getting quite a bit of love in the last few updates, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays. Again, faction overviews on the way, but overall, really, all of these sort of lesser known style factions are getting a lot more love. So really, this means for any of you who are brand new to DI, or if you're a veteran, it's time to check out those factions that you've been putting off. Really, every faction in DEI has had some sort of major overhaul attributed to it, and really now we're just getting more and more detail pumped into it, and now is really just the ideal time to try out new factions that you've never played. It might also finally be time for you to check out the Rise of the Republic campaign. If you're like me and you've kind of been putting it off because of the lack of content in there, the DEI team recently added the campaign to be actually playable and more compatible with DI. It was always playable to an extent, but there was some issues. But more recently, it has had a lot more changes added to it to make it a lot more sort of modded to be like DEI as it should be. So in this particular update though, there's going to be some major changes to some of the AI. For example, the Nuragic culture is going to be a lot more defensive, which is interesting because usually it's just like AI needs to be more aggressive, but there's more personality that's being funded into these cultures, which is really interesting. Romans get those velites, which is always lovely. But there's also new mercenary units coming in, such as the Lucanian heavy missile cav, Etruscan archers, Herpini ambushers, and Ligurian infantry. Now, if you already have a campaign started in Rise of the Republic, you might not see some of these new changes quite yet. You'll need to start a new campaign, just a heads up. But if you already are in the middle of one, go ahead and finish it and then come back later on. It also seems that Carthage has been made a little bit more powerful via the auto resolve script update, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And then just in general, it's been more like minor fixes, factions and whatnot are getting fixes as well for the AI. So if you've played a Rise of the Republic campaign in the past, and maybe you noticed some issues, or maybe the AI wasn't challenging or really doing what it should, I really recommend checking it out now, because in this update and previous ones, there has been quite a few new Rise of the Republic changes coming out. So it seems to be more playable than ever. Okay, so now we're going to move on just to some more minor changes. It can still have a really big impact, keep in mind, but just as far as headlines go, these are relatively minor. So there's a bunch of new unit changes. The changelog of the DI update specifically lists that there is visual updates happening. So for the Iolian units, the Editani, the Eravaki, the Galatian rosters as well as the Irish faction, which I cannot for the life of me pronounce. There's also going to be visual updates for the AI Celtic faction. So it's not just the player faction of Celtic's options that are getting updates. the actual AI ones will look a lot better. So that's excellent. As you're conquering those Celtic factions, they're going to look a lot more juicy. Literally hundreds of smaller changes and fixes have gone into this update, as there usually is with units. But in particular, we're just seeing so many visual ones added in here. We also are going to see some campaign changes. So if you're like me and you love to play multiplayer for DEI, there's a big fix where they're finally fixing the population system not necessarily working in multiplayer games. Now it should be. So if you encountered any issues in the past, again, now's the time to sort of check it out, see how well it's doing for you. We're going to see some personality changes as well. This is something I'm personally really interested in, but apparently AI Greek colony-based factions will actually prefer liberating or subjugating other factions over just completely occupying them and painting the map. In general, their AI should also be a lot more defensive as well. So this makes perfect sense historically, immersively, all of the above. It's excellent, and this is the sort of stuff that I love to see. There's also a whole host of like smaller changes coming in, like updated visuals. For example, Alexander's appearance should be fixed in the latest sort of version. Pyrrhus and Ahsoka, wow, been watching too much Star Wars. Ashoka from Moria have also had a new custom look added in here. Again, a lot of these changes are only going to apply to a brand new DEI campaign, so now's the time to start one. As I did say, 1.3.4 is out. It's now out of beta, so it's an excellent time to be starting those new campaigns. I know I've been saying that quite a few times, but it is just something to keep in mind. But anyway, that is it for reviewing the update for DEI for 1.3.4. I'm going to take a minute to just do a minor channel update, so if you were here just for the update, feel free to head on out. Thank you very much. Make sure you subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. However, if you'd like to hear a little bit more about channel changes, updates, so on, hang out with me for a little bit longer. So it's been roughly about 9-10 months since I've uploaded a video, and one of my last posts in the community was about me going through some medical things and whatnot. And quite strangely, but I guess I understand the point of view, is that I've been getting a lot of comments and personal messages about me being seriously ill. Oh my gosh, Measureholic, you still alive? Those sorts of comments and questions. And I sincerely appreciate the sentiment behind that, and you all checking in on me and whatnot, which has been really lovely, especially after such a long time. I am completely fine. I'm not sick, obviously. I'm still alive. It's not AI. But I just spent most of the beginning of 2023 basically like going from a cold to losing my voice to back to a cold and so on. And anyone who knows anything about recording your voice is that you need to be in relatively good health to do so. So for the first sort of 4, almost 5 months of 2023, my voice just wasn't recordable. I already don't like hearing it, but barely being able to talk makes it a lot more challenging. Also, throughout this year, I've been really going quite hard at my new job that I landed, which I'm very, very lucky and blessed to have. However, it does require me to talk for about 6+ hours for most days of the week, at least of the working week, Monday to Friday. So having colds and sickness and so on, and talking a lot for my professional job in real life, is obviously I don't do YouTube full time. It's just been a really difficult combination to be able to physically actually record anything. I have been recording things, but I just haven't been recording with my voice. The second thing that comes into that is time. YouTube is a hobby that I do. I absolutely love it. I don't really ever want to stop doing it. Will it ever happen? Probably at some point I'll stop, but I don't want to. So I upload things when I can, or I record things and plan to upload when I can. I'm not going to say there won't ever be a large break again. I'm trying to be getting back into being relatively consistent, but that's just for me to figure out on my own. However, recording takes time, as did the previous style of my editing. For those of you who have been on the channel for a while, I usually record my footage, I save battle replays, I then try to do cinematic shots and show you mixtures of gameplay and then the campaign. And I cut out from like 3 hours of gameplay, I show you all about like 20 to 30 minutes worth of footage, so that's not much at all. It takes an insane amount of time to edit, and then when I finally do get around to completing it and whatnot, I've spent like, for a single episode of a typical campaign, I would record probably 3 hours worth. I would edit it for probably about a 2-hour period, and then I need to narrate over it because I narrate over all of my gameplay. Again, if you've seen any of my previous campaigns and so on, it's never like live. It's always me just narrating over what's going on. Going forward, I would love to be able to do that, but I really just don't have the time or space or honestly the energy to do so much work for videos. So I'm still looking to get back into uploading consistently, doing the same content, faction overviews, which I love doing, any other guides, let's plays. It will also be dabbling into some other things that I've never done before, of course. But I'm going to be very honest, the style of editing and whatnot is just not sustainable for me. I can't keep doing stuff like that, so there will be a lot more content like this where I'm giving you either live reactions or live gameplay along with live commentary. I hope to get better at doing that as time goes on, and I do apologize if that's not necessarily what you're looking for. I still completely plan to play the same and tell stories in the same way. Footage is always going to be edited in that you'll never see things like end turns or like pointless battles or anything like that. But in general, it's going to be less me narrating previous footage and more so me just playing the game and creating story and whatnot, as I normally do anyway. It's just going to be presenting things slightly differently anyway. So that's the main change, but I just want to give you all a heads up about it. Fairly transparent with my channel, as you've all seen in the past, so want to let you all know what you could expect. I do highly recommend joining our Discord. Again, there's a link in the description below if you'd like to check it out yourself. That's where you can interact with me, other members of the community, find online battles, as well as we have quite a few active online players and whatnot, whether it's for a campaign or just for battles. And we also, of course, talk about anything Total War, especially historically focused Total War. As you know, that's my main focus. But anyway, if you would like to interact there, feel free to join. If not, I just sincerely appreciate you taking the time to listen to my little ramble here. I hope you are excited for the future DEI and hopefully the rest of Total War as well, as we're moving forward. It's now the brink of 2025. Oh my goodness, where did the time go? But we are still very lucky to be able to have games like this and enjoy history in the various different ways that all of us love in our own unique way. So again, I want to give one last big shout out to the DEI team. I sincerely thank you all for your work. It's incredible. You are beyond loved and appreciated. Keep it up as much as you can, but for goodness sake, also get some rest. Your hard work must be costly for you. So want you all to know it's appreciated, and to all you viewers, just want you all to know I appreciate your time listening to me, sending comments and messages my way. I do appreciate to those of you who have checked in. There's been quite a lot of you, which is really unexpected. But yeah, just want to say I appreciate you all. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.